All right. So today we're diving into something that I know a lot of you are thinking about, uh, launching a small business.
Yeah.
Not just any launch, though. We're talking launching on a budget, which,
Huh.
let's be real, it's the smartest way to build something that's going to last, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think when people think of a budget, they think of limitations, but it doesn't have to be that way at all. It's about making sure you have a solid foundation from the start.
Yeah. And we've got a ton of great sources today that are just bursting with strategies to help you do just that. So we're going to walk through those make or break first steps, from that initial light bulb moment, all the way to scaling in a way that actually makes sense for you, for your budget, and for your goals. First things first, that brilliant business idea you've got brewing. We need to get crystal clear on what that is. Now, you've probably heard the advice to start with what you know, but do you know why it's so effective?
I think it's not just about playing to your strengths, but it's also playing it smart with your budget. We found some research that actually shows that businesses that are based on pre-existing expertise have a much higher success rate. Tapping into what you already know saves you time and money on things like training or outsourcing.
Yeah, and it just feels good. Like working in that zone of genius, right? Confidence is key when you're launching a business. And our sources also hit on another super important point, solving a problem. I mean, think about it. The businesses you really admire, they're usually addressing some specific need in the market.
Right, and it comes back to that passion. What are you passionate about solving? What gets under your skin? And how can you make that better for others?
Okay, so you've got that killer idea, you're fired up to solve a problem. Now what? Well, you need a plan. But don't freak out. We're not talking about writing like War and Peace here. Our sources were big fans of the lean business plan.
Yeah, the lean business plan is like your roadmap. It's going to keep you focused, and it's going to keep you on budget, helps you to prioritize, and avoid overspending in areas that you don't need to right away.
Okay, so break it down for us. What does a lean business plan actually look like? Well, our sources broke it down into a few key elements, starting with the executive summary, which is essentially your elevator pitch, what your business is, who it serves, and what you want to achieve.
And then from there, we look at your target market. You want to get specific about who your ideal customer is. What are their needs? What are their pain points? What are they hoping to achieve? Knowing this is going to shape every decision you make from here.
And then comes the fun part, the revenue model. This is where we figure out how your business is actually going to make money. Our sources mention several different options, like straightforward sales, subscription services, or even a freemium model where you offer some basic features for free and then premium features for a cost.
And of course, you can't forget about the budget and expenses. This is where being realistic is absolutely essential. What are those must-have costs to get your business off the ground? And how does that align with your budget constraints?
Yeah. And then to keep you on track and motivated, our sources suggest outlining those milestones and metrics. These are measurable goals with deadlines, which help you to track your progress. You can celebrate those wins,
Yeah.
and then course correct if needed.
Yeah, and one of the best things about the lean business plan is that it's not set in stone. As you learn and grow, you can adapt it. Because as we know, being an entrepreneur is rarely a straight line.
Speaking of adapting,
Yeah.
let's talk about those startup costs.
That can feel
Overwhelming, right? Especially when you're on a budget. But don't worry, our sources were full of amazing strategies to help you minimize those costs.
And one of the best ways to do that is by choosing a business model that is inherently budget friendly. And the sources highlighted a few that are great for keeping those costs low.
So first up, we've got service-based businesses. And this is all about selling your expertise. So think like consulting, tutoring, freelance writing, graphic design. You're essentially the product, which means those startup costs are usually pretty low.
Next, we've got online businesses, which we know have exploded in recent years. And it makes sense, selling through platforms like Etsy or building your own website. It's incredibly cost-effective.
Especially if you're dealing with digital products, right?
Yeah.
Ebooks, courses, designs. You eliminate all those physical inventory and shipping costs. Oh, and our sources also mention drop shipping as a game changer for online businesses.
Absolutely. You partner with a supplier who manages all the storage and shipping, so you can focus on marketing and sales without tying up all your cash and inventory. And another model known for its low startup costs is the subscription model.
Oh, subscriptions. Such a powerful tool. Whether it's a curated box, a membership site, or a software service, that recurring revenue is so key for creating that steady and predictable income stream.
Now, beyond the business model itself, our sources are all about that DIY bootstrapping mindset. Doing things yourself might seem like a lot of work, but it can save you so much money. especially when you're just starting out.
It's all about being resourceful and creative. So think about website development, for example. Instead of shelling out thousands of dollars for a custom website, you can use one of those user-friendly website builders, like Wix, Squarespace, or Shopify, to create a professional-looking site yourself.
And what about marketing? You don't need those fancy, expensive ad campaigns, at least not right away. Organic strategies like social media, content creation can be incredibly effective, especially when you're targeting a specific niche.
Yeah, and don't forget about all those essential business functions. Accounting,
Yeah.
legal stuff. There are tons of free and affordable software options out there, like Wave or QuickBooks. That can help you manage your books without breaking the bank. And for legal documents,
Services like LegalZoom or Rocket Lawyer can be such lifesavers compared to hiring an attorney for every little thing. And here's a tip that people often overlook. Take advantage of those free versions of essential business tools.
so true. I mean, so many CRM platforms, project management tools like Asana or Trello, communication tools like Slack or Zoom, they all offer free plans that are perfect for a small business just starting out.
It's all about being resourceful, right? Making the most of what's available. Another crucial strategy for keeping those startup costs down is to start small and scale gradually. It's about testing the waters before you dive in head first, which allows you to get feedback, refine your offering, and avoid overspending too early on.
I love that. Being strategic with your resources, our sources offered a couple of really cool tactics to support this approach. Have you ever considered running a pilot program?
Pilot programs are a great way to test your product or service with a smaller group to get real-world feedback. And you can work out the kinks and validate your idea before investing heavily in a full-scale launch.
And if you need a little bit of funding to get things moving, our sources talked about the power of pre-selling or crowdfunding. Platforms like Kickstarter or Indiegogo can help you raise funds from those excited early adopters.
It's a great way to get that initial capital without taking on debt or giving away equity too early. You're essentially proving that demand for your product or service before you even create it.
Now, even with the most budget-conscious approach, you might need some capital to get things rolling. But don't worry, bank loans aren't your only option. Our sources highlighted a whole menu of funding sources that might surprise you.
Let's start with the most common approach, personal savings and bootstrapping. It's how a lot of entrepreneurs fund those initial expenses. It does come with the risk of using your own money, of course, but it also gives you complete control.
Yeah, and if you are going the personal savings route, our sources had a couple of extra tips. First, take a good look at your spending, see if there are any areas where you could cut back, even temporarily, to free up some cash.
And you could also consider a side hustle to generate some extra income. That you can then put into your startup. Freelancing, driving, even selling crafts online can make a big difference.
Another common option is tapping into your network of family and friends for funding. But our sources really stress the importance of approaching these conversations with a lot of professionalism.
Treat these transactions like you would any other business deal, even if it's with someone you love. A clear written agreement is essential, outlining the terms, the repayment plan, any equity share. No room for misunderstandings there.
And just as important, be upfront about the risks involved. Investing in any startup comes with inherent challenges. Your family and friends need to go in with their eyes wide open. Now here's a funding source that often gets overlooked: grants and competitions, and they can be especially valuable for women and minority entrepreneurs. Our sources suggested exploring both local programs and national organizations.
The Small Business Administration, or SBA, is a great place to start. They have a ton of different programs designed specifically to support small businesses, including grants and low-interest loans, and for women entrepreneurs specifically. Organizations like NAWBO offer fantastic resources and mentorship.
And finally, let's talk about microloans. These are smaller loans that are usually much easier to qualify for than traditional bank loans, making them a great option for covering those initial startup costs.
The SBA has a microloan program, and organizations like Kiva and Action specialize in providing microloans to small businesses, so there are definitely options out there.
So you've got your idea, you've minimized those startup costs, and maybe even secured some funding. Now it's time to spread the word.
All right, let's talk marketing. And guess what? It doesn't have to drain your bank account.
I like the sound of that already. Our sources highlighted a bunch of cost-effective strategies that can be super powerful, especially when you're first starting out. And let's start with the one we all know and love: social media.
Social media has become such a powerhouse for marketing, offering incredible reach and engagement. without spending a fortune. The key is creating content that really resonates with your audience and actively engaging with your followers.
It's all about building those relationships, right? Not just blasting out sales messages.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And different platforms are going to work best for different types of businesses. If you've got a visually driven business, say fashion, food, or design, platforms like Instagram and Pinterest are your best friend.
And for those in the B2B space, or anyone looking to establish themselves as an expert, LinkedIn is where it's at. And then there's TikTok, which can be a great way to reach those younger demographics, or just inject some fun and creativity into your marketing.
Now, beyond social media, there's content marketing and blogging, which are absolutely essential for building authority and trust.
So think like blog posts, articles, videos, infographics, anything that provides valuable information to your audience. By creating high-quality content, you're positioning yourself as an expert, boosting your search engine rankings, and building a library of resources for your audience.
And don't underestimate the power of guest blogging either. Reach out to established blogs or websites in your niche and offer to contribute a guest post. It's a fantastic way to tap into a new audience and build backlinks to your own site.
And finally, there's email marketing, a true workhorse for any business. Building an email list and nurturing those relationships is one of the most cost-effective ways to stay top of mind and drive those sales.
The best part, tools like MailChimp and ConvertKit offer free plans for small businesses just starting out, so you can start collecting those email addresses, segmenting your audience, and sending targeted messages without spending a dime.
And our sources had a couple of key tips for maximizing those email marketing efforts. First, offer something valuable, a free guide, a discount, exclusive content to encourage people to sign up for your list. And second, segment, don't treat everyone on your list the same.
Group your audience based on their interests, their purchase history, their engagement level. It lets you personalize those messages and make sure you're hitting the right people at the right time.
All right, so you launched. Things are starting to gain some traction. Sales are rolling in. Now it's time to think about scaling up. But hold on. Our sources pointed out that growth shouldn't be a mad dash. It's about being strategic, reinvesting wisely, and building a business that's both profitable and sustainable.
Right, rather than blowing all your profits on fancy perks. Think about how you can reinvest that money to fuel smart, sustainable growth. And one key strategy our sources highlighted is outsourcing.
As your business grows and those to-do lists get longer and longer, consider delegating those non-essential tasks to freelancers or agencies. It could be anything from social media management to customer support to bookkeeping or content creation.
By outsourcing those tasks that aren't directly in your zone of genius, you free up your time and energy to focus on the big picture strategy and the things that really move the needle for your business.
This is where things get really interesting. Our sources went beyond the typical advice about scaling up, and they dug into some often overlooked aspects of building a business that frankly apply whether you're bootstrapping or swimming in venture capital.
It's about recognizing that a successful business isn't just about the numbers. It's about the people. It's about creating a brand that resonates, fostering a positive work environment, and making ethical choices that align with your values. And what's great is outsourcing doesn't have to be a huge expense. Platforms like Upwork and Fiverr connect you with talented freelancers from all over the world at really competitive rates, so you can start small. Maybe outsource a few hours a week just to see how it impacts your workload and that bottom line.
Okay, so we've talked about scaling strategically, but our sources went beyond just the numbers, and they really dug into this human side of building a successful business.
If we zoom out and look at the big picture, it's clear that strong businesses aren't just built on, spreadsheets and marketing funnels. They're built on strong brands, engaged teams, and ethical decision-making.
I love that. So let's break down those people-focused strategies. First up, building a strong brand identity. This goes way beyond just a logo or a color scheme, right?
It's about the heart and soul of your business. It's about defining what you stand for, what makes you unique, and how you want to be perceived by your target audience. Think about the brands you love. What is it about them that clicks with you?
Is it their commitment to sustainability? Incredible customer service? Maybe a quirky sense of humor?
Exactly. Identifying those core values and weaving them into every aspect of your business, from your marketing to your product design. That's what creates a brand that really stands out.
Our sources had a great example. Imagine you're launching a line of eco-friendly clothing. You could simply focus on the sustainable materials, which is great, but what if you took it a step further?
What if you partnered with a local environmental organization or donated a portion of your profits to a cause you believe in. Suddenly, your brand becomes about more than just clothes. It reflects your values
Mhm.
and your commitment to making a difference.
Such a powerful way to connect with those customers on a deeper level. Now let's talk about another crucial piece of the people puzzle, fostering a positive work environment.
This is so important. Even if you're a solopreneur working from home, it's about creating a space, whether physical or virtual, where you feel energized and inspired to do your best work. And when you do bring on team members, that positive energy is contagious.
Absolutely. Happy employees equal happy customers.
Think about it. When your team feels valued and respected, they're going to go the extra mile, be more creative, and provide that exceptional service.
So how do you actually create that positive environment? Our sources emphasize clear communication, setting realistic expectations, and celebrating those wins, even the small ones.
Whether it's a big sales milestone or just a week where everything runs smoothly, recognizing and acknowledging those successes can make a huge difference.
Okay, let's move on to a topic that can be kind of tricky, especially as your business grows, making ethical decisions.
It's something you have to think about constantly, and our sources stress that it's a journey, not a destination. It's about continuously striving to do the right thing, even when it's hard.
So how do you define the right thing when it comes to business?
It starts with getting clear about your values as a business. What principles are non-negotiable for you? What kind of impact do you want to have on the world? Once you understand those core values, you can use them as a guide when you're making those tough decisions.
It could be, choosing sustainable packaging,
All right.
being transparent about your pricing, partnering with ethical suppliers, or simply treating your employees and customers with respect.
Our sources had a thought-provoking example. Imagine you're a food company, and you have an opportunity to source a key ingredient at a much lower cost from an overseas supplier. But then you discover that this supplier has some questionable labor practices. What do?
Yeah, do you prioritize profits over your values? Do you turn a blind eye? Or do you find a more ethical alternative, even if it means, sacrificing some margin?
Tough choices, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, those decisions shape your business and its impact on the world. And consumers are paying more and more attention to these things. They're more likely to support brands that align with their own values.
So ethical behavior isn't just the right thing to do, it can actually be good for business. Speaking of doing the right thing, let's talk about the legal side of starting a business, which, let's be honest, can feel pretty overwhelming.
It's definitely important to understand the basics, and our sources broke down some essential legal considerations, starting with choosing the right business structure. They talked about sole proprietorships, partnerships, LLCs, and S corporations.
And there's no one-size-fits-all approach, right?
No, each structure has its own pros and cons when it comes to liability, taxes, and administrative complexity.
So if you're flying solo, a sole proprietorship might be the easiest way to start. But if you're partnering or anticipating significant revenue, an LLC or an S corporation could be a better fit. And a key takeaway here, don't be afraid to seek professional advice. Talking to a lawyer or an accountant who specializes in small businesses can really help you navigate these legal complexities. And make sure you're setting yourself up for success.
Another crucial legal consideration is protecting your intellectual property.
So that's your brand name, logo, product designs, even that killer tagline you came up with.
And you don't have to be a huge company to protect your intellectual property. Trademarks, copyrights, and patents are available to businesses of all sizes.
And our sources highlighted a few key points about intellectual property. First, do your research. Make sure your brand name or product idea isn't already taken.
Second, document everything. Keep detailed records of your creative process, sketches, prototypes, even brainstorming notes. And third, don't hesitate to seek legal advice if you have questions or concerns about protecting your ideas.
Now let's talk about something that can make or break any business relationship: contracts.
Whether you're hiring freelancers, working with suppliers, or closing deals with clients, having clear contracts is crucial.
Our sources broke down the essential elements of a solid contract. And first up, the scope of work needs to be crystal clear. What are you providing? What are the deliverables, the timelines, the payment terms?
You also need to address ownership and intellectual property rights. Who owns the work that's created? Who has the right to use it, modify it, or sell it?
And don't forget about those termination clauses. What happens if one party wants to end the agreement early? What are the penalties involved?
And this might seem obvious, but get everything in writing. Don't rely on handshake agreements or verbal promises. A signed contract protects everyone involved and can really save you from headaches down the road.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. Let's talk cybersecurity, which is more important than ever for businesses of all sizes.
It's not just a big company problem anymore. Small businesses are increasingly becoming targets of cyber attacks, which can have some pretty devastating consequences.
Think data breaches, stolen customer information, financial losses, even reputational damage. It's scary stuff. But the good news is there are simple steps you can take to protect yourself.
Our sources had some great tips for boosting your cybersecurity. First up, strong passwords. I know it's tempting to use the same one for everything, but please don't. Use a mix of uppercase and lowercase letters, numbers and symbols.
And consider a password manager to help you keep track of all those complex logins.
Next, enable two-factor authentication whenever possible. It adds an extra layer of security by requiring you to enter a code from your phone or email, in addition to your password.
It might seem like a hassle, but it can make a big difference in preventing unauthorized access to your accounts.
And speaking of unauthorized access, be wary of phishing scams. Those emails or messages that look like they're from a legitimate company asking for your personal information. Don't click on those links.
If something seems off, go directly to the company's website or contact their customer support to verify.
Better safe than sorry. And finally, back up your data regularly. This seems obvious, but it's amazing how many businesses skip this step. Whether you use an external hard drive, cloud storage, or a combination of both, having those backups can be a lifesaver.
Okay, so let's zoom out, talk about the bigger picture here. Long-term business success. Our sources went beyond just the tactical tips, and they dug into those mindset shifts and strategies that really set successful entrepreneurs apart.
And what's so fascinating is that these principles apply across industries and business models. They're all about cultivating the right habits and mindsets for long-term growth.
So what are some of those key principles?
Well, first and foremost, embrace continuous learning. The business world is constantly evolving, which means you need to be a lifelong learner. To stay ahead of the curve,
That could be, attending industry conferences, taking online courses, reading books and blogs, listening to podcasts, even just having conversations with other entrepreneurs.
the key is to stay curious, be open to new ideas, and never stop seeking ways to improve.
I love that. And our sources also emphasized another crucial mindset shift, embracing failure as a learning opportunity.
Nobody enjoys failing, but it's part of the journey. It's how we learn and grow, and the difference between those who succeed and those who give up is often how they handle those setbacks.
So what does embracing failure actually look like?
It's about reframing mistakes as valuable lessons. It's about analyzing what went wrong, identifying areas for improvement, and using those insights to make better decisions in the future.
And remember, you are not alone. Every successful entrepreneur has faced challenges and setbacks along the way. It's okay to reach out to your network, seek mentorship, and connect with others who can offer support and guidance.
Beyond those mindset shifts, our sources highlighted some practical strategies that can contribute to long-term success. And one that stood out was building strong relationships.
So that includes relationships with customers, suppliers, partners, mentors, even competitors. Networking isn't just about exchanging business cards, it's about fostering those genuine connections and building a supportive community around your business.
And remember, building relationships is a two-way street. Be generous with your time and expertise, offer support to others, and don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it.
Our sources also talked about the power of mentorship. Finding someone who has already navigated those entrepreneurial waters can be invaluable.
A mentor can provide insights, help you to avoid common pitfalls, and keep you motivated. When things get tough, it doesn't have to be a formal relationship. It could be anyone you admire, who's a few steps ahead of you on their journey.
And finally, our sources emphasize the importance of giving back to your community.
I know this might seem counterintuitive when you're laser-focused on building your business, but giving back can actually benefit your brand and create a positive ripple effect.
It could involve volunteering, donating to local charities, supporting social causes you believe in, or even using your business to amplify voices and initiatives that are making a difference.
And it doesn't have to be a grand gesture. Even small acts of kindness and generosity can have a significant impact. So think about what matters to you, what your business stands for, and how you can use your platform to make the world a little bit brighter.
I love that. It's about aligning your business with your values and creating something that's not just profitable, but meaningful.
Yeah. It's amazing how those small acts can ripple outwards.
Yeah.
It's not just about doing good. It can actually boost your brand reputation and attract those like-minded customers.
Totally. And think about that personal satisfaction, knowing that your business is making a positive impact. That can be really motivating.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into launching a small business on a budget, what's the biggest takeaway for our listeners?
I think the biggest takeaway is that it's doable. Might take a little planning, a little creativity, maybe a few late nights, but with the right mindset and a willingness to roll up your sleeves, you can really turn that dream into a reality.
Yeah, it's about being resourceful, right?
Yeah.
And not being afraid to experiment and learn as you go.
Absolutely. The entrepreneurial journey is rarely a straight line. It's full of twists and turns. And it's in those moments when you have to think outside the box that the real magic happens. So don't be afraid to embrace the unknown. Challenge those assumptions. And most importantly, trust your gut. Our sources were packed with stories about entrepreneurs who did just that.
And here's a final thought to chew on. What if, instead of focusing solely on profit, we started thinking about the triple bottom line?
Ooh, I like that. Break it down for us.
So imagine judging your success not just by your bank balance, but also by your impact on your employees and on the environment. That's the triple bottom line. People, planet, and profit.
So it's not just about making money, it's about building a business that's sustainable and socially responsible.
Exactly. It's a really powerful framework for any entrepreneur. And honestly, it's the kind of business I would want to support.
I couldn't agree more. Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into launching a small business on a budget. Hopefully you're walking away with some fresh ideas and a renewed sense of excitement about your own entrepreneurial journey.
Absolutely. Remember, you don't need a huge budget to create something amazing. You just need passion, a solid plan, and the willingness to learn and adapt along the way.
And hey, if you're listening out there and you've got a burning question or a challenge you're facing, or even just an amazing business idea you want to share, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on social media, send us an email. Let's keep this conversation going.
We're all in this together. And sometimes just knowing you're not alone can make all the difference.
That's so true. Until next time, keep dreaming big, stay curious, and go make some magic happen.